Where is the Congos? Why are there two Congos in Africa? And why are they, what are they, and why the difference? It is by revisiting the history of colonization, conquest, and wars that one will come to realize these answers. On the podcast today, we met up with two young ladies who are currently living in the US but are from the Democratic Republic of Congo and not the Republic of Congo. The Congos were colonized by two competing European countries, France and Belgium, so that today these independent African countries are separated by a hybrid identity, largely the result of European domination and conquest, where one half of these peoples were colonized by the French, so that today the Republic speaks French, and the other half Belgium, so that the Democratic Republic speaks Belgium or Belgian. The Congos are currently independent nations since the 1960s. But just like other colonized countries in Africa and the global south are dependent capitalist countries with high levels of poverty and some amount of instability and local infighting over whatever resources is left after European domination. However, we learn that the Congo, while an important country with a resource used to make many devices we hold in our hands today, they are the creators of rumba and are a very bucolic, simple society with deep culture, roots, varied cuisine, and flavorful music. However, the study of the Congo continues to reveal the reality and result of the Black position in the world today. The discussions here form part of a study we're looking on at the development of privilege and power and the reality of the human dynamics today. The reality of the human dynamics today as we study power and its strategies, problems for human progress. But what is interesting is that almost every former colonized country today, except for Canada and the US, that had white settlers, and the Puritans from Europe, and to some extent South Africa and Australia, are struggling dependent capitalist countries with high levels of crime and violence and some amount of instability. Further, not only is this situation evident nationally in countries, but among peoples and places in post-industrial countries where there is a concentration of Black and brown peoples, progenitors of nations that suffered conquest and domination under colonization and the slave trade. This is discussed in my book, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance, which was published last year, 2021, and is available worldwide. But it is also picked up in Book 2, Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, which will be out in December of 2022, this year. We discuss this particular topic today: the Congos, hybrid identity, and the Black position.
What is the hybrid identity? That's why you have to listen to the podcast today. But hybrid identity is a hybridity or hybrid. The concept of hybrid has been around for quite a while. You've heard about hybrid cars, which are cars that can save miles on gas and that's one of the good features about it. It's a mix. So when you think about hybrid, you're talking about mixture, okay? So the topic today is the Congos, hybrid identity, and the Black position. The fact that you've asked me what I mean by hybrid is very important. It was very interesting because, yes, that needed to have been defined. But hybrid, when you think about hybrid is a really deep academic concept as well in academia when you start to study the concept of hybridity. But in this sense, we're talking. You have to listen to the podcast because I put a spin on it, in a sense. But when we think about hybrid, you're always combing two different elements, two different things. As I said, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of things. And so that would give you a little insight as to what to expect in the podcast today. In addition to, of course, the amazing interview that provided the insight into the Congos. The Congos. Hybrid identity. And the black position.
And I have with me two amazing young ladies, powerful women who are with me today. Hi. And they are from.
We're from the Congo.
Yes, and it's not often that I meet people from the Congo. I'm from Jamaica.
Right.
And so, I tell people I have one of the most amazing jobs. I get to meet people from all over the world.
Right.
And I'm here with two young ladies, beautiful, amazing young ladies from Congo.
Thank you.
Yes, and tell me, what's your names, by the way?
My name is Aaliyah.
Okay.
My name is Maggie.
And how long have you been here in the U.S.?
I've been here since 2010, so 12 years and counting.
Oh, just around the same time when I came here.
Oh, great.
Wow, and what has been the experience like? First, tell me, what was life like coming from Congo, in the Congo? Tell me what's life like in Congo. What's going on in the Congo?
Well, our country is very big, and I come from the southern part of the country, so things have been pretty peaceful out there. However, if I was to come from the eastern part, then obviously there's been an ongoing war for the past 30-something years. But I'm just lucky enough that where I come from, things have been peaceful.
What's this war? What's going on?
So they have this...
I have a very interesting and insightful podcast episode. I met two women yesterday. You know where they're from? Guess. Well, okay, you would know. Africa, but an African state or an African country in the continent Africa. Congo. And I learned several things yesterday about Congo that I didn't know. First of all, I have never met anyone from the Congo. I've never spoken to anyone from the Congo or the Congos. Never. Yesterday was my first time, and it was quite interesting. So this podcast is a brief introduction to life in the Congo, or the Congo, but not just the Congo, but I learned that there's two types of Congo. You know that. There's not just one, it's two types of Congo. And you find that a lot of Congolese people do not, you don't find them a lot in the U.S. The U.S. is not one of their countries of choice or places of choice, because they speak their official language, of a national or official language is, well, they were colonized by the Belgians. And by the French. So one part of the Congos is Belgium, Democratic Republic of the Congo. Okay, and then there is the Republic of the Congo. But it's two different Congos. One, same thing like in Canada, where you have two, where the country was split in half between the French and the English, because the French controlled part of Canada, or in the Americas you find it was the French and the English. But in the Congo, it was split between the Belgians and the French. So if you go to you know what language they speak in Congo? They don't speak English, They speak French and Belgian. Or Belgian. Okay, they speak Belgian. It's quite interesting. But they talk about what's going on in the Congo. They talk about the opportunities. They talk about the fear. They talk about the challenges. They talk about why they are here, and so on and so forth. Quite powerful. Learning about the Congo. But you see, we talk about how Europe destroyed Africa, how they went and colonized that country and rape Africa of their wealth, so that anywhere where the Europeans or the Caucasian went, yes, anywhere where they colonized and went, they went there and raped these people, and now you go back to those countries are depressed. Except for in the U.S. The U.S. is completely different, because, first of all, the U.S. is a different situation. A different situation with the U.S. in terms of colonization and so on. Because you find out a lot of the colonists came here and they settled here. There are a lot of colonists and the Puritans and so on. You didn't find a lot of the Puritans in Africa, okay, who came with the plantocracy and so on. You didn't find those people. You didn't find them in Jamaica and the Caribbean. You didn't find them. And these countries in the global south, these African countries, black countries that were devastated, colonized by Europe, today they are a beacon of disaster. In terms of, no, I should not say that. They struggle economically. They struggle, and many of these countries have adopted European conservative brand of religion, European conservative brand of. They still have certain cultures that is uniquely African, uniquely black, uniquely Jamaican, uniquely but the issue is they were completely re-assimilated, reshaped. The countries was raped and turned these countries into dependent capitalist countries. But anywhere where the Europeans went, if you look at those countries today, those black countries, or those Latino countries, they are poor. There is no, every single one of them. And the European countries are the post-industrial are wealthy today because of that fact. When we talk about this issue of race, this issue of competition, there was indeed a competition where the people in Europe went and destroyed and invaded these people's land and took them and then went all over and scattered these people all over the world and made them forever poor. It's quite interesting.
Mineral that they call coltan that most companies that work in tech like Apple, HP, Dell use in their in their iPhones, computers. They have it there, and supposedly, I don't know how true this is, but supposedly the Western world actually influenced the war back there, so they can be able to extract these minerals for a cheaper cost, and therefore use it in all the products, our devices that we use every day.
Okay, so it's exported all over the world.
Yeah.
So is it that? So on the ground? So there are factions or groups fighting over control.
Yes.
And they're all African. They're all Congolese.
Rwandans fighting with the Congolese folks, and supposedly the Rwandans are being used by the Western world. America being one of the countries that's actually fueling that, so they can extract these minerals for cheaper.
Oh, what do they use this product or this?
They use it to create iPhones. They use it to create every device that you have right now.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So you. Oh wow! So this is like gold. This is like diamond.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants an iPhone. I mean, it's the new age. It's 21st century now.
Yeah.
Everybody is killing over.
If you don't have an iPhone, it's like, are you even using a phone right now?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and here you are now so that's one of the reasons why you. So tell me, outside of that, what's Congo like these days?
So far, it's doing okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, the rest of the country is pretty peaceful. It's just that eastern part. But everything, it's just like anywhere else in the world, like in Jamaica, in the Caribbean, anywhere. It's pretty much the same.
And I know you guys have a soccer team, right? Aren't
do.
you guys playing in the World Cup this year?
No, we're not. Unfortunately, we lost.
Oh,
so.
wow.
But at least we have Cameroon,
Yes.
That's going to be part of it, so we're supporting them.
What's the relationship between Congo and the other African
Pretty
states?
good. Like, we're a very peaceful country. We're very welcoming people, and we have good relationship overall with the rest of the continent.
And then what is the Congo known for outside of the mineral?
For the music. We're the originators of rumba.
Okay.
Obviously, it's different from the rumba that I guess Cubans play, but supposedly it came from there too, from Congo.
Yes.
But we are the originators of that. Good food. We have some really nice national parks. Unfortunately, we're not known for that because every time someone talks about the Congo, it's always about this particular war that's only happening in the eastern part of the country.
Yes.
So it overshadows everything that we have to offer, unfortunately.
Oh,
but I urge you guys to visit. It's really nice. People are peaceful. People are welcoming. And just come on, and we're going to embrace you as you are.
And in the economy, what kind of economy is it? Is it you guys have, and governmental system and so on?
We're not a capitalist country.
Okay.
We're not also a liberal country. I guess it's just going to be a little bit of everything.
Yes.
So I don't really have a name for it, but it's a little bit of everything.
Okay, so it's a mixed economy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there you go. That would be perfect.
Yes. And in terms of the history, did you was Congo also part of a colony of any country?
Absolutely. We were colonized by the Belgians. So we speak French as our first language.
Okay.
Because we were colonized by Belgians.
Yes.
But that was over on the 30th of June in 1960.
Okay. That's when you got independence?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So, in the 60s, a lot of countries got independence in the 1960s. Yeah. Jamaica got independence in 1962.
Right.
A lot of Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, quite a few countries got in the 50s following the nationalism wave. Okay, and how has it been since you guys got independence in terms of the government system?
62 years now?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's been peaceful transition. Who are the two governmental?
Not very peaceful, because the person who actually got us our independence was killed brutally. His name was Patrice Emery Lumumba.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he was killed because obviously, again, Congo was like this huge pie that everyone was trying to get a piece of.
Yes.
And they were not happy to see us, just thrive on our own. So they had to kill the person who really fought for our independence, and they put their pawn, Mobutu Sese Seko. I think that was like 5 years after the independence, and he reigned, let's put it that way, for like 30-something years. And then Kabila, the father, came and took over. It wasn't a peaceful, transition. And then, when he took over, he was also up there for like 3 years, and he was killed.
Yeah.
So the son took over, and he was president for like 12 to 17 years. And just 4 years ago, this other guy took over, and his last, when is he supposed to renew his presidency?
Oh, so you guys have a president?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason why I use the reign verb for Mobutu is because he was there for 30-something years. At this point, are we talking about a country? Or...
wow.
Yeah.
So you guys have... Is it like a planned or a state-run economy or a dictatorship or something?
He was a dictator.
Okay.
But... so far with the new one, we would like to think that it's not going to turn into a dictatorship, because we're actually going to the elections next year in December. So we're just hoping that it's going to be a peaceful election, and who may the best candidate win.
Yes. Wow, I've learned so much. I don't know much about the Congo. So
you should research. And by the way, just so you know, there's two Congos, right? There's the Democratic Republic of Congo, and there's the Republic of Congo. We're from the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the big Congo, the heart of Africa. Just so you know.
Okay, so remind me of the two again. One is the
Republic of Congo.
Yes.
And then the Democratic Republic of Congo. We're from the Democratic Republic of Congo.
And what's the difference between the two?
Well, we have two different presidents. They were colonized by the French.
Oh.
From France. We were colonized by Belgians, but they also speak French.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, so it's as if the country is split in two.
Yes, and the only thing that separates us is a lake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
It's almost like Canada has almost a similar situation.
Yeah.
With the French and the
and the English folks. Yep.
Oh, wow. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And so now you are here. By the way, COVID? What in terms of COVID and what happened? How did COVID treat
back home?
Yeah, Congo.
No, it didn't affect us as much. Honestly, I feel like the food that we eat out there, the weather also had to play a huge role. People grow their own food, right?
Okay.
It's not like the GMO stuff that you get off the counter here.
Yes.
So obviously you're not eating things that's building your immune system. You're eating things that's destroying your immune system.
Right.
Whereas over there, you're eating things that are building your immune system. So that's why the COVID rates were not as high as in the Western world.
Oh, wow. This is
Penn Square.
So you guys the kind of just a lot. It's very bucolic, agrarian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, nice. And now you are here you came here about 10 years. You said 10?
Yes.
Years ago. What was the experience? What was the experience like? The transition like?
It was very interesting. Culture shock. You know, food, because I'm a foodie. It was very different. But then again, I came here for school, right?
Yes.
So I didn't. The language,
right?
The language was different, because before coming here, I had to go learn English in South Africa, just so my transition would be a little smoother.
Right.
And obviously in South Africa, the English they speak there is British English. It's not American English. So when I came here, there were a few words that would always throw me off, like, okay, why? What do you mean gas station? It's filling station, you know?
Oh,
just little things like that.
Yes.
But I got used to it, and here I am.
Wow. And so far, you have been getting involved in assimilating into the culture here.
Yeah, I try as much as I can. I try to take the good, and I try to also just, live the bad out there.
Yes.
Let's just put it that way.
Do you ever go back to Congo?
Yes. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to go back in the past 2 years because obviously adulthood has been hitting me pretty hard.
Yes,
but next year, I am going home. So,
wow. No, I mean, I know a lot. Tell me the experience in terms of what are the expectations that people have of you in the Congo? Now, you are here in the Congo. What's the expectation that people have of you?
They always tend to seem that when you studied overseas, you kind of like know it all.
Yes.
But really, do you really know it all? I believe in complementary, right?
Yes.
Just me, adding to whatever you put on the table. Like, this is the idea I'm bringing. This is also what I'm bringing. How can we make it better? Whereas they think, if you studied abroad, you know it all, you're better than, but really, are you?
Yes.
No. That's just my point of view. Obviously, everyone's point of view is going to be different. But they think that if I go there, I'm gonna make things so much better. But come on.
Yes. And they have high expectations.
High expectations. Super high expectations.
Yes. Because not many persons have the opportunity to travel and to leave.
How many?
Not many persons have the opportunity to travel or to leave Congo.
You're free to leave if you have the money. It all comes down to the funds.
Yes.
It all comes down to the funds. If you have it, we have a lot of, granted, Congolese people don't necessarily come to America, but most people come, they go to Europe. Like, you'll find a lot of Congolese people in Belgium, because obviously we were colonized by them. Most of Congolese people in France, because obviously the language and all that stuff. You do now find a lot of Congolese people in the UK. Because also the flight is not as long, right?
Yes.
Here it takes you 20 something hours to get here, whereas if you're in Kinshasa going to Belgium, it takes you 7 to 8 hours and you're there. There's no time difference, and there's not really that huge culture shock, because obviously we were colonized by these people, so it's kind of the same, really. Kind of. I'm not saying it's the same, but it's kind of. You know what to expect to a certain extent.
Yes. Wow. In terms of, let me ask you a question. In terms of, say for example, in Jamaica, $1 is about 136.
And that's good, because ours $1 is 2,000 francs Congolais.
Wow. Okay, I understand. I remember some time ago, a very good friend of mine went to Zimbabwe. She came back and she was telling me
their currency is just use your dollars. That's it. And when you're in Zimbabwe,
yes. What's family life like, and the religion and so on?
Mostly Christian, then Muslim folks.
Yes.
Then what else do we have? All the other tribal. Religious groups, but mostly Christian.
Your destination will be on the right.
And people are very family oriented. When you're 25, they're asking you, when are you getting married? Because we don't necessarily believe in having kids out of wedlock. So when are you getting married so you can start having kids?
Yes.
Very is on the right.
Very religious.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That was, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
It was such a pleasure.
The pleasure was ours too. We appreciate it.
And we appreciate it. Hopefully
look at history, and if you study war, when you study war, and you, even throughout civilizations, throughout history, countries fought against other countries for dominance and for wealth. And what was always the strategy when this happened? When other countries penetrate another weaker, smaller country, they would take over and rape their land of any wealth that they can get, anything that those people, the people, and then they will also rape them of not just the land, but any and all of the natural or any of the resources, including the people, the labor. And in some instances, during colonization, you have to look at it that the race was involved in a race. Post-industrial countries, capitalists, represented by the nobles at that time, and kings and emperors and the church and so on. Their activities, when we think about it today, many years ago, the thinking was different, because you go to war, you steal their land, you steal their labor, you steal their people, you rape them and leave them in a less advantageous position than you are. So we have to put this into perspective, and we have to understand this clearly when you look at the dynamics in the world today, when you look at peoples in the world today, and why black people and brown people are not privileged, and why they are poor, and why wherever there is a concentration of black and brown people, those areas call for is lack opportunities or have very limited resources compared to others, because it is what has happened in the past. Black and brown people, they are suffering today in many instances compared to the others, are not in a privileged position today because of what has transpired in the past with wars and rumors of wars between countries and peoples and places. And when a particular place, when a particular people, when a particular country loses a war, they lose their pride. They may lose their self-identity, because the country that goes in and penetrate, so especially hundreds of during colonization and beyond, they would commit genocide. And if you look at what happened in Jamaica and many of these countries where that experienced colonization and eventually met the slave trade, you find that the natives that lived in these countries when the Europeans visited them no longer exist today. They were all destroyed. They were all killed. They were either overworked. Some of them commit suicide. They were mistreated and raped. But such is war. Such is war. That is, if at the time when countries go against each other, if you study history, it was never with a sense of morality, never with a sense of pride. They dehumanize the other, create caricatures of them in order to go in and plunder. But this is always the case with human beings. When human beings go up against each other, they redefine one another and engage them. If you look at fights in the ring, boxing, or when people compete against each other, yes, They redefine the people. They redefine one another. But anyway, beyond that, it's quite interesting. So if you study all those countries today, if you study countries today that were invaded by Europe and those peoples today and what is happening in those countries and with those peoples, you'll find a situation that speaks to the history of those people, as if black and brown peoples are constantly reminded of the fact that they and their peoples got the end of the stick as their ancestors were engaged in a war that largely left them at the other end of the stick because the Europeans invaded and plundered and destroyed their countries, took their wealth. Some of those countries were eventually some of those countries were lived in, were settled by and took over and taken control of by Europeans. And today you find, say for example, South Africa. But you find that there is a lot of wealth, a lot of barrenness, a lot of struggle, a lot of dependent capitalism. So this particular episode of the Neoliberal podcast is quite interesting, as I met and I discussed, I have never met anyone in I've heard about the Congo. I've watched them. By the way, the Congo national team, they play soccer or football. It's a football country, and many of these countries adopt European style ways, competition, their sports. Having had their countries and been destroyed and taken advantage of and granted, and now they are part of the international stage with new identity, with a hybrid identity, so to speak. But the issue of privilege and position becomes a very important issue, and the issue of neoliberal globalization, it must be placed into contrast when we think about the history of the world, Europe and Africa, the history of peoples, and how war ultimately create dynamics in society that we are experiencing and living today. So when we look at the issue of racism, when you look at the issue of income inequality and poverty, when you look at the issue of power and privilege, and you look at Western civilizations and other civilizations throughout history, and you see how war destroy people's places and lives, and ultimately, so many of those people whose lives were destroyed by wars, whose countries were defeated, some of these people end up living, and their ancestors and those that come after them end up living, finding themselves with other languages, other tongues in other places, and with new or hybrid identity. This is important. And so you wonder, why is it that things won't change, and why is it that there is race? Why is it that things won't seem not to be changing in the world? There's still an issue of privilege and position and so on and so forth. Why is it that black and brown people are the poorest in the world? Why is it that the black and brown countries are among the poorest and depressed in the world? And you start to study wars of the world, and how many of their wealth was taken away, and many of these countries got independence in the 1960s. Jamaica was one, the Congos, Trinidad, Tobago, so on and so forth. Many of these countries the U.S. got independence in 1776 because the independence and the people who fought the war was kind of different. The people who led the war
and the makeup of the country and so on. And this is very important as you study people and places and what's happening today and dynamics. So some people are okay with the status quo. Some people are okay with what gives, with the dynamics in society, with the privilege, because it stems from what has happened historically in society, where those who have lost the war, them and their ancestors and their progenitors, their children and grandchildren, a constant reminder of a war that was lost by them and their people. But there is much poverty. But you find, look what's happening in the Congo. It's quite interesting. I can't wait for you to hear this. This is powerful. But there's one other concerning issue. It's as if these countries in Africa don't know how to deal with wealth. They don't know how. I'm not going to say in Africa. Many of our peoples, they don't know how to deal with wealth. They don't know how to get along. They don't know how to support each other. They're always fighting over spoils and so on. In the Congo, it's as if they have many of these countries have resources in the country. They don't know how to capitalize and utilize it. In East Congo, they have a particular resource that is used to make iPhones. I understand there's much instability and fighting in that part of the country between two types of people in the Congo. And what's really bad? What's the most embarrassing thing is that the US, our country, in some sense, I understand from these Congolese women, is supporting a situation that puts one group of people over another. You look what happened in Haiti and so on. This de jure, de facto ways of perpetuating the demise of certain people continues in subtle ways that many people in your communes, you don't think about it. But it is happening at the political and at the international global levels. As your governments go and destroy and plunder and use various ways to take advantage of other countries, and which ultimately affect peoples throughout generations. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Neoliberal Round podcast. Please join us tomorrow for another exciting episode. We will be at the launch at the Honorable Stephanie M. Sawyer, the launch of the resource-based sentencing and supervision, the Sentencing Foundation. Sorry, it's not the launch of the resource-based. It's the Sentencing Supervision Foundation, and they provide resources to the resource-based supervision and sentencing foundation, which is geared towards reducing recidivism as it relates to incarceration, and also cutting down mass incarceration. So that's good, and we will be having an interview again with the Honorable Judge Sawyer as we look forward to covering the launch coming up soon. And I'm also working on the release of my second book, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it sometime
next week or maybe this week, I'll share with you a little bit about that new book. It promises to be, it's a powerful book. It's entitled Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, from the 1960s to the American recession and beyond. And it is actually a second edition to neoliberalism, and it continues the themes and the concepts there. But the question is, to what extent has neoliberal globalization affected the working class in the Americas, particularly black and brown peoples in the global south and the global north, and for the study, the Caribbean and the United States, with references in other countries and peoples throughout. Further, how have these peoples responded, so on and so forth. I won't spoil it, because I will share the introduction and some excerpts from the book on another podcast. Thank you for listening to the Neoliberal Podcast. I'm Ronaldo McKenzie. Please send us a feedback, subscribe to this show on any stream, and support us at https://anchor.fm/theneoliberal/support. And please do visit us at www.theneoliberal.com. The Neoliberal Corporation, serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges through our communication, which is to make popular what was the monopoly. What good?